Good evening, everyone. Um, Welcome to this exciting last session on the day one on clean energy business models. A quick round of introduction. Myself, Kapil Bansal. I am the partner at EY Parthenon, and a lot to learn from this session for myself as well because we work on the clean energy business models for our clients. And just one interesting fact before I introduce myself. This year we got 27,000 applications, and I'm a part of the core technical committee. And when we reviewed each, there's amazing quality of knowledge that we have. We always look at 0.8% of our investment going into R&D, but when we look at the knowledge capital that we have, nothing can beat us. So from that in perspective, this is going to be a very exciting session by a lot of the members who are going to talk about on the dais. Overall 23 years of experience coming from oil and gas, ex-Indian Oil, worked in the refineries, and then moved my ladders through and working as an energy transition and decarbonization lead in EY Parthenon, where we're working towards net zero for a lot of the hard to abate sectors and building up the whole energy transition portfolio. Now, in terms of this session, we have exciting speakers who are going to talk about different elements. First of all, I would like to introduce Ramandeep. He is a Chief Technical Service Manager from Indian Oil, my ex company, so very close, always to heart, that being an ex IOCN. Ramandeep has been a graduate from Punjab University and has master's degree in business management from FMS Delhi. He has been overall 19 years of experience in Indian Oil refineries and petrochemical complex, and started his journey from Indian Oil Panipat, quite similar to mine. So kind of very well relate to him. And he's been working in the operations and related activities in the HG unit, so hydrogen generation unit. And currently he's going to talk about the topic on utilizing India's net zero refinery sulfur to imported industrial chemicals. Over to you, Ramandeep.
Hi, good afternoon. So I know this is the last session, so I will not try to make it long and tough. And so on the carbon reduction and electrification stage and talking about the clean energy models. So hi, I am going to present Indian Oil's one of the clean energy model. What were the background and the reasons which had led to that clean energy model, how it has improved the performance, improved the net zero, and something about the technology, because we are all from refineries here. So we, Indian Oil, had ventured into specialty chemicals, and it has many unique equipments and technologies. So let me just start with the background here. Recently, we are all talking about the energy transition, the net zero, but in the last decade, it was mostly about the conversion of Indian market from BS4 to BS6. And this had resulted in a lot of brownfield projects. And this was basically upgradation of our existing DHDTs, DHDS, debottlenecking of capacities. And in turn, this has resulted, or I can say, this had created a potential of around 370,000 metric tons or sulfur removing capacities, which was required in our all refineries across India. Now, in a refinery setup, typically, sulfur is recovered using a close process in an SRU. Wherever, like DHDS or MSQ, wherever we are having a dehydrogenation reactions, desulfurization reaction, those sulfur are collected in the form of acid gas and sour gas. They are fed to a SRU plant, where this is again converted to solid and liquid sulfur as a product. Typically, it is a low value product and it is sold at a discount, but refineries don't consider it as a major stream, or rather it is mostly considered as a byproduct because it is around at max 2 to 3% of the refinery capacity. So this is the background here on the technology front and on the business front. Now, there were other global changes as well. In the COP26, our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Modi ji had declared that India is going to be net zero by 2070. And Indian Oil, being the forefront of oil and gas, has also declared that it is going to be in net zero in scope 1 emission by 2046, complementing with 100 years of India's independence. Now, with both of these objectives, and of course, another objective of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, Atmanirbhar Bharat aims to produce all the products which are imported in our business scenario and replace them with products which can be produced inside the country as well and reduce our import dependence. So, with these two objectives, Indian Oil was trying to look for technologies which are matching with our nation's aspirations, and we have been scoping for various technologies which match our objective. Now, something about sulfuric acid before I venture into the sulfuric acid part. It is a very basic chemical. It is widely used in industries due to its highly oxidizing and dehydrating properties. It is used in very basic industries like pesticide, fertilizers, detergents, as well as very advanced high-tech industries wherein leaching of uranium core is again done by sulfuric acid. Now, sulfuric acid is basically consists of three major components: hydrogen, oxygen, and sulfur. So hydrogen and oxygen is of course there throughout the planet, and sulfur is one thing which we were sitting on it as a refinery. We were directly selling sulfur. So with this background, and in the last decade, wherein we had to shift from BS6 to BS4 to BS6, so we were planning, all refineries were planning on a SRU. And similarly, same thing was being done at one of our refineries, which is the Haldia refinery. So during that time, and with this all this background of net zero and sulfuric acid being imported, we tried to commission a study, a market study about the sulfuric acid. And it came out that of around 2200 KT, around 1300 KT of sulfuric acid was being imported on the east coast of India itself. So these are few of the locations: Calcutta port, Paradip port, and Vizag port, where the sulfuric acid was being imported. So market is there, and product is definitely going to substitute our import. So that is why we were looking for technologies wherein we could produce sulfuric acid, and as well as have a very high steam generation, or you can say a net zero objective is also met. So with those objectives, we came up with one technology which was provided by Halda Topsoe, which is basically a wet sulfuric acid plant. So basically, before talking about the technology, it was a very pleasurable experience, a very insightful one. We were able to commission the plant before time, or you can say just on the time, being the first wet sulfuric acid plant of India as well as Indian oil refineries. So basically, what is a wet sulfuric acid? So this is a plant which takes in all the refinery off gases, which has all of these various components. It converts it into sulfuric acid. It generates additional steam, and it gives out clean gas. Few of the unique feature of the sulfuric acid plant, which is typically different from our refinery technology setup, is it is applicable. So presently, this technology is applicable to various sulfur dioxide producing off gas power plants, coke plants, or smelters, because this has a very large gas flow in a very small pressure. Typically, our refineries are working on a very high pressure of 30 to 150 kgs. So whereas this sulfuric acid is a low pressure technology, and it requires specially Teflon coated equipments, and as because it is very corrosive at particular temperatures and pressure. So this was very unique to our business, and this is one of the BFD's block flow diagram of our sulfuric acid technology. Basically, it takes in sour gas and acid gas. There are two sulfur dioxide converters, and then we are able to take out heat. Due to proprietary nature of the technology, I won't be able to talk much about the processes part, but I'll come to the interesting part here. So basically, this wet sulfuric acid technology has three zones. One is the combustion zone, where all the gases are converted to SO2. So typically H2S is self ignition at around 3%. But since our off gases will have all sorts of gases, and typical H2S SO2 conversion temperature is around 1000 degrees, but we take it up to 1300 degrees, so that all the denitrification processes are also take place. So first we have a combustion process. Then we have a SO2 converter, where SO2 is converted to SO3 with release of heat, and those heat are extracted in steam drums. And then we have the most interesting part, which is not there in any of the refineries existing equipment, is the WSA condenser, which is a glass-based condenser. So we have few pictures and we'll talk about this special condenser as well. Now, the main crux in this technology compared to the existing sulfuric acid technology is, typically, first, after the combustion, we dehydrate in any other double contact process. We bring the temperature down, and then we have a dryer, and then again we convert it SO2 to SO3, and then we take it to oleum route. But in WSA plant, we have a very good heat integration. So if you see, all of the three processes of SO2 conversion, gas cooling, and acid condensation is going to release heat. And with this technology, we are able to recover 90% of that heat, and only 10% is discharged to cooling waters. So this is one of the main crux and special areas, key areas of this technology. And with that, what happens is that after the selective catalytic reactor, we are able to take out all the heat, and only then we feed it to our glass condensers. And all the sulfuric acid is collected at the bottom of the condenser, and the top clean air is passed through. So a little bit more about the condensers. So these are special condensers. So particularly our condenser, if you see, if you are able to increase the height up to 10 meters, we are able to get a 98.5% product. This is a 6-pass condenser. Each of the individual glass tubes have spiral inside for increasing the heat transfer coefficient, and they have their individual dampsters and a combined one also. The sulfuric acid is converted at the bottom, and these are specially lined tiles which are able to handle those sulfuric acid at those temperatures and pressures. These are the few of the pictures of those glass condenser tubes with a helical structure inside to increase the heat transfer coefficient. Now, this is also one of the very interesting commissioning experience which we had, since we are from the refinery background, and this was the first specialty chemicals project which we had. That initially our acid was being pinkish in color, but it was turned out that we have a special coating reaction where the iron reacts with sulfuric acid and forms iron sulfide. And once this is formed, gradually your pink color will disappear and it will become very crystal white, and with the 98.7% purity. So in order to summarize, with this, Indian Oil was able to achieve its net zero target, its Atmanirbhar target, and convert our refinery sour gas and acid gas to a valuable chemical. But that's not it. The major part is that we are feeding around 5 tons of sour gas into this plant. We are getting around 13 tons of sulfuric acid. But more than that, we are getting around 40 tons of high pressure steam, which reduces our fuel and gas to around by 12,000 SRFTs. And this reduction in CO2 emission is equivalent to the annual reduction or absorption by 20 lakh trees per year. So this has reduced in a lot of fuel and gas saving for our refinery. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ramandeep. Such a lovely understanding of how net zero can be achieved with a product that is being imported currently, and how it can be utilized effectively in different use cases, and also bring energy because it's an exothermic reaction. And it's a lovely case study that has been brought together, not just as an theoretical perspective, but on a practical ground that has been very well executed. Moving on, I'll invite Nishita Saraswat, please come on the stage. Nishita is going to talk about decarbonization of hydrocarbon operation, blue hydrogen, power generation, and challenges. Nishita, along with Ram, would be talking about this topic as a co-presenter. Nishita comes with civil and structural engineering background with masters in geotechnology engineering and an industrial professional with 8 years of experience across various business lines. Supported by Ram, who is overseeing the carbon and energy management activities from projects and assets in Shell. Ram has been working in the STCB from past 12 years and has overall 30 years of extensive experience on developing innovative concept on decarbonization energy management across the value chain. He's a chemical engineer from LIT Nagpur and has previously worked in multiple institutes. Thank you. Over to you guys.
Thank you for the introduction. I, Nisha Saraswat, and my co-presenter today, Mr. Ram Kurode, on behalf of Shell, today we'll be discussing the case study and one of our recent projects on the potential of blue hydrogen for power generation, the various challenges associated with it, and the solutions deployed by Shell to ensure an integrated, sustainable, and efficient production of decarbonized power along with carbon capture and storage. So hydrogen can essentially be, hydrogen can essentially be categorized into three predominant categories, starting with gray hydrogen, which is produced from coal gasification or steam methane reformation of natural gas. It is a carbon intensive process. The next one, which is blue hydrogen, is produced from natural gas along with carbon capture and storage. It is less in carbon intensity. The cleanest one, which is green hydrogen, is produced from the electrolysis of water, electrolysis of gas, natural gas, electrolysis of water powered by the renewable energy. The carbon intensity depends on the carbon neutrality of the electricity source. As we see in figure number 1, the production cost for green hydrogen are significantly higher than the other forms of hydrogen, which is gray and blue, making it a less economically viable solution. So the business case for blue hydrogen is that it has less production cost and it is supported by the existing infrastructure as well as the existing and the emerging technologies in the market, and it offers a lower carbon alternative which can meet the hydrogen demand while the renewable energy infrastructure is scaled up. As we can see, in Indian landscape, the energy sector contributes to 75% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And the National Hydrogen Mission, launched in 2021, aims to make India a global hub to achieve the net zero emissions by 2070. Continuing our discussion, in the range of solutions which are offered by Shell in the decarbonization sector, where hydrogen is one of the options for fuel. As shown in the diagram, the process begins with the treated natural gas, which is coming from an existing facility, which is being processed in a blue hydrogen plant using Shell's patented blue hydrogen processing technology. And the carbon dioxide generated as the byproduct is used initially for the enhanced hydrocarbon recovery and then initially sequestered in the depleted reservoirs. The blue hydrogen produced is with approximately 97% of the purity, which is then used in combined power generation or cogen power plant, which essentially constitutes of steam generators and gas turbine generators as well as heat recovery generators. And the hydrogen produced from that is then used for producing the decarbonized power, which is then sent to the grid, as well as the other uses are in form of industrial fuels, as well as it is used for pipeline blending and mobility in fuel cells, as well as it can be used for ammonia, which can be exported or used as a fuel. Now, dwelling deep into the key challenges which is faced by the production of blue hydrogen in the power generation. The first and the key one is the fact that it is an emerging technology. So the technology which essentially utilizes approximately 100% of hydrogen firing in gas turbine generators is nascent in the industry. The second one is the nitrogen oxides emission control. Due to the higher flame temperatures, the NOx emissions are higher, which we'll see further how the solutions are deployed by Shell to control these. And the last one, which is the availability of water resource. As we know, in lot of the sites, the availability of water is a challenge at remote facilities, which can lead to Shell deploying solutions with the better production of hydrogen. Now I'll hand over to my co-presenter, Mr. Ram Karode, who will talk in depth about the solutions deployed by Shell.
Good evening, and thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. Okay, so in this next couple of slides, we will discuss about the challenges that we face while developing hydrogen-based power plant, which Nishta mentioned in her previous presentation. So, yeah, so in this slide, I have summarized a couple of challenges that we have faced. So let me start with the safety aspects first. So so as you see that the hydrogen is having a very wide flammability range, which is varying from 4% to 75%. And if you compare that with the conventional fuels such as methane or natural gas, then it is multiple time more than the conventional fuel. Therefore, the risk of hydrogen in terms of the fire or explosion is also multiple time more than the conventional fuel. To address this concern, we develop the requirement which in a way will possibly reduce the hydrogen emission or hydrogen leakages from the facility, which essentially includes requirement of the proper ventilation, requirement of the welded joints wherever possible for hydrogen pipeline, and also we come out with the improved sealing materials like high performance PT, FE or metal seals. So these are the measures which we propose in order to reduce overall leakage from the facility. So these are a very common measure as such, but I just have highlighted that concern because the higher flammability of hydrogen, and this is the first challenge one would face when we design hydrogen-based power plant. Now, the second challenge is because of high flame temperature, which is leading to material stress, and also it accelerates the degradation mechanism of the material. So this resulting ultimately into the reduced life cycle of the power plant, and also it would also increase the operating cost because of the very frequent requirement of maintenance of the power plant. So to address this challenge, we actually identified the areas where we required enhance the cooling system around the combustor of the gas turbine, and also identified the areas where we require advanced alloy material and such as advanced alloy steel and ceramics, which can be used to mitigate that measure. So again, this is something has to be done by, part of that has to be done by vendor. Hence, we in consultation with vendor, we then come out with the requirement which are then included in the project scope document. Lastly, in this slide, the consequence of high flame temperature also leading to higher NOx emissions. Details of that we'll see in my next slide. So this I'll take a quick as a case study, how just to demonstrate how we address some of these challenge while developing our solution when we are using hydrogen as fuel for power plant. So as I mentioned before, NOx emission is one of the challenge, and it is estimated at around 500 ppmv NOx will be emitted at the outlet of gas turbine when we are using hydrogen as a fuel. However, according to the World Bank standard, maximum the upper limit or the acceptable limit for NOx level in the emission in the flue gas is 25 bpm. Therefore, we explore technologies such as premix type combustion or DLN, diffusion time combustion system, which uses diluents such as steam or nitrogen. And the third one is a selective catalytic reduction measure, which to reduce that NOx level down from 500 to 25. So these are some of these modifications required when we have to, when we are addressing this NOx emission. So in first one, which is premix type combustion, actually, this is a quite well established technology in case of methane or in case of natural gas based technology. When you are using methane or conventional fuel as a in gas turbine. However, the gas turbine which we have selected in our project, this particular thing was not technically feasible because of several reasons. So we could not evaluate that further, and then we're dependent on these other two options, which are essentially diluent using steam or nitrogen or SCR technology. So in diluent, basically we use steam or nitrogen. We inject that into the combustion air, and that basically develop a lean solution which burns at a low flame temperature and reduce NOx emission. In SCR, we actually inject ammonia in flue gases, which reacts with the NOx emission, NOx molecule in the flue gas, and convert that into nitrogen and water molecule, and thereby we are reducing this emission, NOx emission. So very quickly, I'll take you through the results. So we have run several, simulation models of all these options, and also combination of these options, as you can see in this table. So there are case studies we develop in detail. The purpose of this exercise was to evaluate the key performing parameter of this option and do that performance analysis, and then do that screening, and then select one technology. So there are, if you see there are, in this table there are four cases. First case is a diluent type case where we use 100% steam as a diluent. In case 2 is also a diluent type with 100% nitrogen. Case 3 is again a combination of diluent and SCR technology, where we are reducing, from 500 to 70 ppm level by diluent, and from 70 to 25 by SCR. This is combination, and case 4 is ACR. And after having done this comparative analysis, and basically we just compare the efficiency, operating costs, capex, complexity involved. These are some of the parameters we use to evaluate that. And if you see here, the efficiency of case 4 is relatively better among all these 4 cases, which is around 50%. And also it gives us net power output better than other 4 cases. And so that was selected, and other influencing factor were like resources, such as in case of steam we require a lot of water, because we are talking about around 900 megawatt of power, so we end up consuming a lot of water in order to reduce this NOx level. So because of the scarcity of water at site, this option was dropped. Similarly, a second option dropped because net efficiency or auxiliary power was more in that case. So this is the typical analysis, and we did similar analysis for other challenges as well, to select the technology or modifications required to make it more suitable for hydrogen as a fuel in power plant. So now just quickly the technology overview. So this gas turbine technology, as I mentioned before, require some upgrade modifications when we are using hydrogen as a fuel. Of course, there are some pilot site, or this improvement is mostly happening in coming years, and this technology will be mature to handle hydrogen. But some of the thing right now we need to do is, as we discussed this before, is safety related aspects, such as this what you can see in top side, this enclosure modification, where we require some proper ventilation, and then this welding and other thing, which I discussed my in previous slide. And accessories module, where we inject diluent such as steam or nitrogen, etc. And in the right side, you see that it is SCR, where we inject ammonia at certain temperature. So we require to inject ammonia at a little higher temperature, around 200 to 300 degrees Celsius. So it is basically injected in after in the duct, flue gas duct, where temperature is relatively higher. Now, I think we have discussed this slide. I think this some of the things before on hydrogen safety. So as we know, there are some advantage and disadvantage. From advantage point of view, other than this reduced carbon emission, we also provide energy security, because when we are using hydrogen, so we are creating basically alternate fuel so as to have better energy security. And the consequence or this disadvantage, we have discussed about the flammability and risk associated with that. Other than that, there is also challenge of producing blue hydrogen, and these challenges are mainly related with the carbon capture and associated things. So, yeah, I mean, this is a quick overview of safety of this hydrogen. And in the conclusion, I'll just conclude with the takeaway that this hydrogen-based technology is a very, it can play a major role in decarbonization journey. However, it has its own challenges, such as the safety of the hydrogen. Then there are some economical related challenges because of the product, this cost of hydrogen, and also technological challenges because of the safety.
Thank you, Nishita and Ram. A very pertinent topic because there has been a lot of discussion on green versus blue, and something coming from the domestic home country is always welcomed. Your stimulations are very important to understand how power sector can decarbonize as well as look at hydrogen as a source of fuel. So thank you very much, Nishita and Ram, for your great insights. Moving on to the next speaker. We have Sugata Mukherjee, the head of operation Tata Power. Sugata is currently working in the head operation of TP Renewables Microgrid, a wholly subsidiary of Tata Power. It has launched its program for providing electricity to 10,000 villages. Apart from providing reliable and affordable power supply to rural consumer, it helps to build 5,000 entrepreneurs. Microgrid is an important element of Tata Power, where he has started his journey in 2016 with commissioning of two pilot microgrids in Bihar. And Tata Power has partnered with MIT, Center of Engineer and Environment Policy Research, towards this transformative technology. Um, Sugata is going to talk about smart renewable energy microgrids, sustainable, reliable, affordable energy for all. A very interesting case, very pertinent for us to look at both the sides of the coin. Over to you, Sugata.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to IEW team for giving this opportunity to share our experience in terms of the renewable energy microgrid, and also what we feel should be the way forward for a sustainable energy world. Uh, I am representing Tata Power. As we all know that Tata Power is one of the largest integrated private energy organization, and we are working in almost all the field in the energy sector, starting from generation, transmission, distribution, renewable energy, as well as EV charging and other value-added services for the energy. So we are what we are trying to present in this particular presentation is that the decentralized renewable energy can be a solution for the energy sector if we take on that challenge with the technological innovations, and that's the objective, that how we can make this. And as perhaps some of you are also aware that Tata Power has a theme that the sustainable is attainable, and that how the sustainable can be attainable is only through the new technology. So first, just a brief background that when we talk about the distribution of electricity to the users, there are three options. That the national grid system is there, then there would be the renewable energy microgrid, which is relatively uncommon, and other is there are some areas in the remote areas where the home lighting systems are there. If we do a comparison of that, the renewable energy microgrid is a solution which can be used for providing electricity in the remote area, and the quality of the energy from the renewable energy microgrid will be similar to the central grid. It can be for a three-phase supply, it will be have an AC output compared to the home lighting system, and we can also use the motive load from this renewable energy microgrid, which will help in developing the micro enterprise in the area of our country. So the major drivers of the microgrid is, of course, energy access, and at the same time that the energy security. As we all know that today in our country, almost the energy access has been provided to almost all the parts of the country, but barring few remote areas in the northeast, as well as in some pockets in the which is covered under forest or hill area. But still our per capita consumption is about one third of the global average, which is considering the development of the economy that we are envisaging and the way today the India is transforming itself is a challenge. So reliable energy at a affordable price is the key thing for which can drive the microgrid. Just a photograph of our microgrid in Tata Power has already installed 200 microgrids in different part of the country, and we are providing the electricity to almost 24,000 of the rural customers, and as we are also envisaging to have 5,000 micro enterprises. So if we see the microgrid technology, it comprises of the solar panel, and then the storage system, energy storage system is through the battery and inverter, and then we also have a transmission and distribution network where we use the smart meter for our customer, and as a backup earlier we have been using the diesel generator because solar is not available in all period of the year for the rainy season or for the foggy day. And today we are completely replacing the diesel generator by the biogas generator. So when we talk about the new technology innovation in this area, there are several areas where the microgrid has in Tata Power we have actually installed the microgrid with some new technology. One is that all the microgrids are modular and plug and play model, so that the energy demand, which is always varying everywhere in village or in urban area, we can always add the capacity of the microgrid through the modular model. Then we have used the biogas and the bio-CNG for the energy generation, which is actually contributing to the circular economy, and the animal waste as well as the vegetable waste can be used for the biogas generation in the rural area. We are using the satellite imaging based mapping for the microgrid and digital elevation model, which I'll cover in the next few slides. And there are the energy storage system. Earlier we have been using the lead acid energy storage system, but today we are also using the flow battery and the zinc gel battery, which are the life of the flow battery is much more than the normal lead acid battery. Just a pictorial description of how we are mapping the household in an electrified village for planning of the microgrid. And also we do the digital elevation survey for the land selection, so that the land where the microgrid are set up is at the proper elevation, so that there are no future waterlogging or flooding, etc. occurs. This is the initiative that we have recently taken for converting the waste to the green energy. In the microgrid area, there are many, in the rural as well as in the urban area, there are ample animal waste or the vegetable waste, etc., are available, which can be converted to the biogas. So what we are presently doing, we are not only generating the biogas from this waste, we are also converting, compressing that biogas and purifying that biogas to the level so that it can be with the 95% of the methane content, more than 95 to 98% of the methane content will be available. It is a biomethane now. And we are also using that in a compressed form through the cylinder to our microgrids, so that the it's a hub and spoke model. The biogas generation is in a centralized area where the either napier grass or the animal waste we are using, or a combination of both, and then the biogas is compressed to the biomethane form, and through a cylinder cascade it is transferred to our microgrids for the energy. Just before, actually, when we are talking about the microgrid is completely an ecosystem where we are catering to various segment of customers. And we have realized in Tata Power that until and unless the technology is used by the customers in this ecosystem, the complete benefit of the microgrid cannot be realized. So that these are the different segment of the customer: household, shops, commercial institute, and most importantly, the micro enterprises, where the growth of the economic growth of India, today we are calling the transformation of India to Bharat. So that is happening by these micro enterprises which are getting the supply from the microgrid. Uh, these are the different segments of the micro enterprises which are being catered by the renewable energy microgrid. In villages, there are certain requirement of the water treatment units. Irrigation service is definitely there. So when we talk about the irrigation service, it's a water as a service. One customers take the microgrid supply for generating taking the water out from the ground, and he is also serving the adjacent farm area. Then we are also having the electric sewing machine. There is some initiatives by Tata Power along with Usha Sewing Machine Foundation, where we are doing the women empowerment. Approximately 1,800 women in the villages are today getting the benefit of the solar microgrid supply. Oil expeller, bulk milk chiller, micro cold room, all these are the rural micro enterprises which are getting supply from the microgrid. Along with this, we are also doing the energy efficient machine and appliances, promoting the energy efficient machine like BLDC fan, the energy efficient light and energy efficient deep freezer, etc. for our customers, as well as energy efficient motors and pumps. So these are some of the typical usage at the rural area, where the motors are used for the irrigation pump, for welding works, for vehicle washing. These are some of the typical usage in the microgrid area. These are two major segments where actually the usage of energy is in a very large scale in the rural area, where we are providing the renewable energy microgrid supply. One is the wood cutting machine, and the other part is in some part of the UP, the sugarcane crushing is actually being done, and here there are two inefficient approach actually, which is presently traditionally being followed. For the crushing of the sugarcane, they use the diesel generator. The motive force of the diesel generator is used for crushing the sugarcane, which presently we have replaced with the solar microgrid supply. The other thing is the output of the sugarcane crushing, the bagasse. The bagasse is burned by the entrepreneur, and that heat is used for the sugarcane juice to jaggery conversion. That is again something which we are presently working to convert that thermal energy requirement through the biogas generation from the bagasse, and when we are planning to do the biogas generation from biogas, there will be two objectives. One, the thermal generation will be a clean thermal energy generation from that. And the second part is they have an energy requirement during the evening period. So that can also be fulfilled because solar is primarily during the daytime energy provider. So these are the areas where we are working present now, and thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to share our experience. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Sugata. No, it's a very, very important topic because where we are sitting in the stage is called carbon reduction and electrification. We talk about, three important things that Sugato bring about is, microgrid is not just look from an electricity perspective. Always grid is with the thought of electricity, but he talked about energy. He talked about energy efficiency and how the different elements of energies can be utilized in a manner which can bring net zero carbon reduction as well as becoming self-sufficient. And this microgridding helps micro entrepreneurship that has been generated. So it's a long way for us to adopt at a larger scale. And if done properly, I think there should be some amount of standardization, harmonization of the standards that can bring the microgrid to a larger extent across the country. With that note, I'll thank Sugato again for such a important subject that was been brought in. Now I request Jay Devan, from Executive Director from Indian Oil. Um,
Thank you, Kapil. Uh, my delegates, participants, friends, ladies and gentlemen. I have retired from Indian Oil. I was working with Indian Oil for 36 years, now a freelancer. And let me thank IEW team for giving me this opportunity to be here and give me my perspective about Indian energy transition. In fact, it's out of the sheer concern that our transition is going slow has made me come here and make the presentation. My presentation will briefly on why the current energy transition is quite complex. What's India's energy transition so far in its history, its outlook, and what is the governing structure today? What is the current standing of India vis-a-vis other countries in the globe? And what are the gaps? And based on some of the researches what I have done, what should be the way forward? Why the energy transition is quite complex? We have seen basically two energy transition in the world over a period of time. First, from the non-commercial energy, which is the firewood, to coal, and then from coal to oil. Now this is from oil to the renewables. First of all, its transition is basically the last mile connectivity is going to be electricity. When it is electricity, the transportation model itself undergoes change. The ubiquitous energy can come into the grid from anywhere and can be given anywhere. So to that extent, the uneven mode of energy transfer or transportation changes. And then you have the technology in every aspect or every link of the value chain, you have the technology as the backup. The benefit, what is coming out, will not be economical. It's totally for the next generation or for the environment. And we have the energy security changing because it's not the energy security per se, it is the system security which is going to come into play. It's the technology patent and cyber security also is going to make a major change. The resource and trading is no more going to be cartelized, and hence it is going to be much more democratic in way the energy is going to be distributed. The energy governance, in fact, the governance and the management of energy will go more from centralized to a holistic model. There are four major drivers in the energy transition. So first is the policy. In terms of policy, it is an integrated, legally binding policy which is going to come, which is going to have its impact right from the think tank, which is going to be at the top of the management and which is then percolated down. And in terms of technology, every aspect, whether it is a service, the product, or the optimizing, integrating, everything is going to be totally controlled by the technology. In terms of market demand, market needs a lot of investing, financing, subsidy, incentives, loans, discounts, etc. And in terms of cultural factors, there is a strong need to change or to have the cultural perception changed over a period of time. So what is in a nutshell, you can see the energy transition is much more complex. We need a well-planned drive. Objective of net zero is very, very clear, but we need an integrated policy to drive it. It will impact multiple domains, which is economic, social, intellectual, cultural, political, and psychological. And to that extent, there will be a resistance to change and necessitates real collaboration between regulators, administrators, energy companies, advocacy groups, and local communities. Such a transition needs unhindered direction and oversight from the national government. How has India's transition been so far? If you really look at India's transition has been from after independence from 100 million tons to 1000 million tons, which has predominantly 4 phases. The initial phase was supply inadequacy. How do we manage supply inadequacies? That's how ONGC, Indian Oil, many of the refineries, even Atomic Energy Commission, many of things have come up during this phase. Second phase was immediately after oil shock, where we wanted energy access crisis to be taken care of. That's how nationalization has come in. Coal India, NTPC, BPC, HPC, nationalization, all those come in during this period. Third, of course, is the modernization phase, wherein privatization has come in, foreign investments have come in, wherein electricity regulatory authority have come in, unbundling of state electricity boards have come in. And the last phase, starting from 2005, in mitigating climate change, wherein lot many efforts have come in, including biofuel, electric mobility, Ujjwala, Saubhagya, many of those schemes. Where is it likely to go from here? There are 2 scenarios in which I have seen it based on the BP outlook. The scenario 1, which is business as usual, in which the coal is continue to be approximately 44% of the energy kitty is going to be coal, wherein the energy would grow as 90%, and there will be carbon emission increasing by 73%, and we will have the renewables quite low as 25%, oil would be around 20%, and then the gas would be around 9%. Whereas in terms of the net zero scenario, we will have the renewables taking the major share, which is 66%, coal would be only 13%, and the energy growth as such for the country would be only 21%, carbon emission reduction by 81%. So the change which is going to be there in many of these energy portfolio is going to be coal from 13% to 44%. That's a variation. Natural gas is going to be 5 to 9%. Oil is 10 to 20%. But whereas renewables, which is otherwise 25% and 64%, we need to really bridge these gaps. And you know, the energy administration today in the country, we have 5 various ministries trying to do this administration. The power ministry, coal, renewable energy, natural gas, petroleum, and atomic energy. And there are other ministries who will also pitch in at times, like environment, railways, shipping, transport, and of course, external affairs. State government also will pitch in terms of electricity regulation, though there is an oversight to some extent from Niti Aayog. This is quite complex, in which 30 public sector units and around 8 regulators otherwise also working. Look at relative position of India in terms of energy transition. There is an energy trilemma index published by World Energy Council. It is a consolidation of energy security, energy sustainability, energy equity, which have various elements. In fact, in security, you have security of supplies, the electricity, how you have different portfolios of energy available, and also import dependency. In sustainability, of course, it's related to emission and pollution, and in equity, it is access, it's the availability, affordability, and all that. Country-specific parameters are also there. If you look at the current standing of India in the Energy Trilemma Index, we are 74th out of 99 countries. And in terms of the best country, you can see it's Denmark, which is total 83.2 as the index. We are only 55.6. There is another index which is done by World Economic Forum, which is called Energy Transition Index. Its score is again similar to the energy trilemma index, but it has got some transition readiness and also core enablers inbuilt into the system. Here again, India is 63rd out of 120 countries, and our average, our number is 55.3, which is below global average, and the best is Sweden with 78.5 as the score. Look at other elements related to energy transition. One is carbon trading. We have actually had a change in our Energy Conservation Act, which has been amended in 2022. We also have BEE as our administrator. We have carbon certificate expected to be issued in 25-26. Many standards have been made. Many rules and regulations are in the making, which is there in some of them are in the public domain for comments. In terms of carbon capture, we have a report which has come out of Niti Aayog, and there are some announcements related to Center of Excellences being made. In terms of energy efficiency, you can see BE doing lot many things related to standards and labeling, energy conservation of the building codes, which has also come in, and various central governments and state governments are trying to do various energy conservation measures and efficiency measures. Now look at the gaps. We have announced, India has announced our energy transition by 2070, and many other countries have actually announced much before this. We do not have a transparent mechanism to see what's actually happening on ground. In fact, this lack of transparency is slowly getting into some sort of a greenwashing in some sectors in the country. You look at energy transition and trilemma index, which I have already explained, which are lagging much behind. Carbon trading, which is yet to take off. We expect it to take off in another 3-4 years' time. And even when it takes off, it's going to be in the pilot stage. If you have seen the European trading system, which is almost more than 19 years, still it is getting stabilized. So we will take another 10 years to stabilize. On carbon capture, it's really cost intensive. We need to have a clear system in place. In energy efficiency, though BE is doing lot many things related to energy efficiency, ultimately dismantling organization like PCRA is giving a very conflicting signal. The finance required for the entire climate adoption is approximately $600 billion by 2050. We do not know from where this money is going to come. And there are claims from different ministry. We have been hearing that the petroleum ministry wants to increase the refining capacity to 450 million tons. The gas is going to be the 15% of the energy mixture. Coal is going to be the base load till 2035. That means coal consumption is going to increase. There are a lot of conflicting messages coming from different ministries. What makes India's energy transition much more complex is because we have high aspirations. In terms of our growth, we want to grow 8%. The moment we want to grow 8%, the energy what we are going to take is much more. To that extent, pollution and emissions are going to be there. The population, in fact, we have focus on agriculture. The moment we have focus on agriculture, we have huge crop residue, waste, and logistics and conversion is going to be an issue. Land and water scarcity is going to make the new technology implementation much more difficult. The most important thing is revenue balancing. In fact, today, from fossil fuels, government is earning a lot of revenue. How do you really compensate for this revenue? Whether the benefiting ministries, which are health, agriculture, and environment, will be able to share the benefit out of this for the revenue sharing. So based on some of the researches which has been done, in case an organization, in case a country doesn't have a very balanced organizational structure, if the organizational structure is really disjointed, then it makes impossible to provide goals and then deliver them. If there is a fragmentation in terms of administrative organization, it's mostly because of accommodation, not for an optimal structure. And lack of professionalism also in the administration also gives rise to policy failures. So the basic remedy for this is to have one leadership giving directions from the top. Second is related to the policy. If the policy doesn't take care of winners and losers and the trade-off, and we don't understand the trade-off and then take care of those trade-off for mitigation, it will be very difficult for the future policies to be made. And many a times what happens is in our system, the policy makers normally try to do the implementation as well. So the focus of implementation goes up in the hierarchy. So there it is much difficult for them to make a good policy then, because most of the time goes into the policy already made and its implementation. And failure to adapt to international energy and climate policies also becomes a major issue. So one policy, one integrated policy is the solution. And in terms of ground level understanding and transparency and ethics, involvement of companies, because companies normally look at economics, and the economics don't work out, they normally don't get into the change mode. So it has to be an implementation with ownership. So my suggestions are quite simple. Most of you must be knowing the suggestions, but still I would like to tell it aloud. Ideally, all activities of energy transition shall be under one leadership. And in many other countries, there is only one energy ministry. We have multiple ministries. And the long-term integrated policy to be implemented, formulated and implemented, these energy policies should clearly give the capital allocation, demand shift management, and compensation mechanism for the entire country. And energy transition has to be a moral responsibility, a shift from economic to environment. So this implementation, normally such moral responsibilities better public sectors implement. Already there are many public sectors in the country, and if the public sectors take a lead for implementation, it will be much more stable, resilient, and for an agile leadership, the leadership tenure also has to be a little longer. Thank you very much for a patient hearing.
Thank you, Jaydev. It was really enticing to understand each element of, how net zero and the perspectives that have to be brought together from one leadership, one policy, and looking at implementation at core was very enriching. And obviously the geopolitical situation as it stands today have a lot of dynamics keep changing. Recently, we all talk about net zero, and which is coming from SBTI, and the sponsors for it are pulling their hands off. So this is going to be a challenging time to see your thought process to get aligned with what's happening currently on the ground. But thanks everyone. It was a very enriching discussion on the overall clean energy business models, from understanding from how in energy setup of oil and gas, a particular process can bring carbon negativity and market connectivity, which was being presented from Indian Oil. There's whole discussion around utilizing power plants towards moving into a blue hydrogen and capturing the CO2. The whole aspects of microgrid, which is an important element of how energy transition can be done at the grassroots level, not just industrial level. And then finally, the whole aspects of bringing policies, leadership, and implementation on ground is an important perspective towards net zero. So overall, a great session. I take back a lot of learnings from this session. I hope the audience have equal understanding on how carbon reduction can be done, and electrification is one of the low-hanging fruits for everyone looking for right energy to be adopted at right time in a right mechanism. Thank you, everyone.